In a world where talent knows no boundaries and music has the power to connect souls beyond generations, one performance on America's Got Talent would soon make the world believe that legends never truly die. This is the story of a young Filipino man who walked onto that grand AGT stage with nothing but his faith, his voice, and a dream so powerful it would resurrect the spirit of one of the greatest voices the world has ever known, Elvis Presley. But before that unforgettable night, his journey began thousands of miles away, on the bustling streets of Manila. His name was Rafael, a 24-year-old street performer who sang at small cafes and on sidewalks, where his only audience was passing strangers and tired vendors. His voice carried something extraordinary, a deep, soulful tone that echoed with nostalgia, emotion, and a mysterious familiarity that made people stop in their tracks. Every time he sang, the old men sitting nearby would whisper to each other, "He sounds just like Elvis." Some even joked, maybe Elvis came back as a Filipino. Rafael would laugh shyly, wiping sweat from his brow as he strummed his battered guitar. Life hadn't been kind to him. His father had died when he was just 10, leaving his mother to raise him and his two younger sisters alone. To support his family, Rafael left school early and worked wherever he could, washing dishes, carrying loads, fixing broken bikes, but music was always his escape. When he sang, it was like the world disappeared, and he was no longer a poor boy from the slums. He was someone else, someone free. Late at night, when the city slept, he would climb up to the roof of his small apartment building. There, under the pale glow of the moon, he'd play softly and whisper, "Someday, they'll hear me." His mother, Maria, would listen from the window below, tears in her eyes. She'd lost everything in life except her son's music. She believed his voice had something divine, a purpose. Then came a moment that would change everything. One evening, a tourist from Los Angeles was walking through the streets of Manila when he heard Rafael singing, "Can't Help Falling in Love." The man stopped, pulled out his phone, and began recording. Rafael sang with closed eyes, completely unaware that his life was about to take a dramatic turn. The video went viral overnight. Within days, millions of people were commenting, calling him the Filipino Elvis. Some even wrote, "Elvis' soul lives on through this boy." TV channels started calling, and eventually, an unexpected email arrived. It was from a talent scout from America's Got Talent. Rafael thought it was a joke at first. He read it again and again until his mother grabbed his hand and said, "Mijo, this is your sign." Tears streamed down her face. For the first time, the dream didn't seem impossible. The next few weeks were chaos. He sold his guitar, borrowed money, and booked a ticket to Los Angeles. He had never been on a plane before. As the aircraft lifted into the clouds, he pressed his forehead against the window, whispering, "Papa, if you can hear me, this is for you." When he arrived at the AGT venue, everything felt surreal, the lights, the crowd, the cameras. He stood in line among hundreds of hopefuls, clutching his mother's old rosary. His heart pounded like a drum. He wasn't dressed like a star, just a simple white shirt, jeans, and worn-out shoes. But when his turn came, something shifted inside him. As he stepped onto the stage, the crowd fell silent. Simon Cowell looked up from his notes, slightly curious. Sofia Vergara smiled politely. Heidi Klum whispered something to Howie Mandel. They didn't know what to expect. Simon leaned forward. "What's your name?" "My name is Rafael," he said softly, his Filipino accent breaking through. "And where are you from?" Simon asked. "I'm from Manila, Philippines." The audience cheered. Simon smiled faintly. "And what are you going to do for us tonight?" Rafael hesitated for a moment. "I'm going to sing a song by my idol, Elvis Presley." The audience reacted with excitement. Some clapped, others cheered, while Simon raised an eyebrow. "Elvis Presley, that's a big name to live up to." Rafael nodded. "Yes, sir, but I'll try my best." Then he took a deep breath. The music began, a soft guitar intro to Unchained Melody. But the moment Rafael started to sing, the entire theater froze. His voice wasn't an imitation, it was reincarnation. Every note, every breath carried the haunting soul of Elvis. The deep tone, the smooth vibrato, the trembling emotion, it was as if time had reversed and the king was standing there again. The crowd erupted in gasps. Heidi's eyes widened. Sophia put her hand over her heart. Howie whispered, "Oh my God." Simon leaned back, his usual stern face now unreadable. As Rafael sang, something magical happened. The massive AGT stage seemed to fade into the background. The spotlight glowed warmer, and every listener felt a strange chill, as though a spirit was in the room. His voice soared, full of pain and longing, echoing through every corner. When he reached the final high note, the entire audience stood to their feet in thunderous applause. People screamed, cried, and shouted his name. Simon didn't move, he just stared, his eyes reflecting something rare, awe. When the music stopped, Rafael looked around, shaking. His lips trembled as he whispered, "Thank you." Simon leaned forward. "Rafael, I don't know what just happened, but that was extraordinary. It's like I just saw Elvis Presley again, but in a way I never expected. You didn't imitate him, you brought him back." The crowd roared in agreement. Heidi was wiping her tears. "Your voice touched my soul," she said. "You made me believe in magic again." Sophia added, "You're not just a singer, Rafael. You're a messenger. You brought something lost back to life." Howie said, "You know, people always say Elvis is gone, but tonight, I think we all felt his presence." Rafael covered his mouth, overcome with emotion. Then Simon stood up slowly. The audience started to chant, "Golden buzzer. Golden buzzer." Simon looked around at the crowd, then turned back to Rafael. "There are very few performances that remind me why I started doing this show. You just did." He reached out and slammed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti burst from the ceiling as Rafael dropped to his knees in tears. The entire audience was on their feet, screaming, clapping, and cheering. His dream had just come true. Simon walked onto the stage and hugged him. "You've just made history," he said softly. Backstage, Rafael called his mother, his voice shaking. "Mama." They pressed the golden buzzer. On the other end of the line, Maria cried uncontrollably. "I told you, mijo. Your voice is a gift from heaven." That clip of his performance exploded across the internet. Within 24 hours, it hit over 20 million views. People from all over the world commented, "Elvis is back. This kid is something else. The reincarnation of the king lives in the Philippines." News channels picked it up, radio stations replayed his performance, and even Elvis tribute artists praised him, saying he had captured something beyond imitation. But behind all the fame, Rafael remained humble. In every interview, he said, "I don't want to be Elvis. I just want to share the same love for music that he gave to the world." As the AGT competition went on, he performed different songs, Suspicious Minds, Can't Help Falling in Love, Love Me Tender, each time blending his soulful Filipino tone with the classic Elvis sound. Every performance was electric, every crowd left in awe. One night, Simon even said, "It's like watching history and the future in the same moment." But not everyone believed his success was luck. Some thought it was destiny. One evening, a mysterious old man from Memphis came to see Rafael perform live. After the show, he approached him backstage, tears in his eyes. "Son, I worked with Elvis back in the day. I never thought I'd feel that again until tonight. You have something divine." Rafael shook his hand, speechless. "Thank you, sir." The old man smiled. "Promise me one thing, never stop singing from your soul. That's what made Elvis eternal, and that's what makes you special." As the weeks passed, Rafael made it all the way to the finals. The pressure was immense. The world was watching. Fans held banners reading, "The Filipino Elvis," and "Sing for the King." Before his final performance, he stood alone backstage, holding his father's old photograph. "Papa," he whispered, "this one's for you." The lights dimmed. The stage filled with smoke. The familiar tune of "If I Can Dream" began to play. It was one of Elvis's most powerful songs, a song about hope, equality, and faith in a better world. As Rafael began to sing, his voice trembled with raw emotion. You could feel the years of struggle, the pain, and the gratitude in every note. The audience was silent, completely mesmerized. Simon leaned forward, resting his chin on his hands, lost in the performance. When Rafael hit the final note, the entire theater erupted once again in standing ovation. Even the judges were clapping with tears in their eyes. Simon stood and said, "There are moments that define this show. Tonight was one of them. You didn't just sing like Elvis, you sang like yourself, and that's what makes you a star." Howie said, "You just gave one of the best performances in AGT history." Sophia added, "Rafael, you are proof that talent can come from anywhere, and music connects us all." Heidi smiled and said, "I think the king is smiling from heaven right now." When the winner was announced weeks later, Rafael didn't win first place. But it didn't matter. He had already won the hearts of millions. Record labels reached out, concerts were booked, and his life changed forever. He returned to the Philippines as a hero. Crowds greeted him at the airport, chanting his name. Reporters surrounded him, but all he said was, "I did it for my mother, my country, and for music." He bought his family a small home, rebuilt the church that had collapsed during a storm years ago, and even started a foundation for young street musicians who couldn't afford instruments. In one interview, a reporter asked, "Do you think Elvis' soul lives through you?" Rafael smiled softly, "Maybe, but I think Elvis never left us. He just found new voices to keep his spirit alive." Years later, his AGT performance remains one of the most watched in the show's history. Fans still comment, "Every time I listen to this, I cry. He brought back memories of my childhood." The king would be proud. And somewhere in heaven, perhaps Elvis himself smiled that night, because his legacy wasn't gone. It had simply found a new vessel, a young Filipino singer who proved that music can cross oceans, generations, and even lifetimes. As for Rafael, he never stopped singing. In every concert, he would dedicate one song to his father, one to Elvis, and one to every dreamer who believed they weren't good enough. He would look out into the crowd and say, "Dreams don't belong to the rich or the famous. They belong to those who refuse to give up." And as his voice echoed into the night, people could feel that same haunting, timeless energy. The same spirit that once filled the air when Elvis Presley sang. Because sometimes, legends don't die. They simply find new hearts to live in. That's the story of Rafael, the Filipino boy whose voice made the world believe that Elvis Presley's soul had returned, not to relive the past, but to remind us that greatness lives forever in those who dare to sing from their hearts. And that's what this channel is all about, stories that prove miracles still happen, that kindness, faith, and passion can change everything. Because somewhere out there right now, another young dreamer is singing to the stars, waiting for the world to listen. Stay tuned, because tomorrow's legend could be singing on the streets today.